My grandfather didn't raise his voice when he exposed the one secret everyone at the table needed me to never learn. He simply set down his fork, opened his laptop, and asked Ellen, "Did you get the email about your trust fund?" The first 10 seconds were a blur of clattering silverware and stunned breathing. My mother froze. My sister stared at her plate, and I felt something inside me tilt like the floor had shifted, because I didn't even know I had a trust fund. What he showed me next didn't just change dinner. It revealed that for 10 years while I worked double shifts, skipped meals, and cried over textbook prices, my mother had been intercepting emails about money that was mine. Money she made sure I never saw. Money she used to fund my sister's perfect life while I struggled alone. And the moment I saw those emails, I realized my entire childhood had been a lie. My name is Ellen Hale. And this is the story of how one Thanksgiving dinner destroyed the family that never wanted me to succeed. For most of my life, I thought being the quiet one made everything easier. When you grow up in a house where your sister's victories are displayed like trophies, and your own needs are treated like background noise, you learn to shrink yourself down. You learn to speak softly, to take up less space, to survive by not asking for too much. My mother used to say, "Don't make things complicated, Ellen," in the same tone other parents used to say good night. I believed her for years. That's why sitting at my grandfather's Thanksgiving table, hearing the words trust fund, felt like someone had reached back into my childhood and snapped every memory in half. Trust fund. Mine. It was ridiculous. I grew up counting every dollar, working weekends at the grocery store, sewing up the sleeves of thrift store sweaters, asking my mom if we had anything saved for college, only to hear the same answer. We're doing our best. Money is tight. But money was never tight. Not for Marissa, my older sister. She got dance lessons, summer programs, and a new car at 17. And somehow, it all made sense back then. She was the star, the one everyone expected to shine. I convinced myself it was fine, that I simply didn't need as much. Grandpa Arthur was the exception. He never treated me like an afterthought. He remembered my favorite books, asked about my job at the college bookstore, showed up to my graduation even when my parents said traffic was too heavy to make it. But even he had never said a word about a trust fund. Not once. So when he asked that question across the dinner table, I wasn't just confused. I was embarrassed, the kind of embarrassment that curls up behind your ribs and whispers that maybe you're the only one at the table who doesn't understand the joke. My mother's face didn't help. She didn't look at me. She looked at Grandpa, sharp and warning, as if willing him to shut the laptop before I saw anything else. My father kept cutting his turkey even though no one was eating, and my sister lifted her glass to her lips but didn't drink. Every tiny movement felt rehearsed, coordinated, as if they all knew something I didn't. And maybe they did, because the truth hit me before the laptop even turned all the way around. Someone in that room had been making decisions about my finances, my opportunities, my future. Someone had been rewriting the story of my life while I was busy trying not to cause trouble. And if I was right, then this wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was 10 years of silence built on top of one very deliberate lie. Grandpa didn't rush when he turned the laptop toward me. His fingers moved slowly, deliberately, like he wanted to give everyone at the table a chance to stop him if they dared. No one did. The screen tilted, and the glow washed over the plates, the candles. My mother's tightening jaw. I leaned forward. My heart thudded hard enough that I could hear it in my ears. Rows of emails came into focus. Subject lines repeating the same words over and over again. Annual trust statement. Beneficiary notice. Contact confirmation. 10 years of messages. 10 years of updates. 10 years of information that should have gone to me. But none of them had. For a moment, I thought there had to be another explanation. Maybe the bank had the wrong address. Maybe there was another Ellen Hale. Maybe this was some bizarre administrative mix-up. My mind scrambled for anything that let me believe my mother was right when she whispered, That can't be right, as if she were the one blindsided. But then I clicked the sender address, and what came up stopped every desperate excuse cold. Because the contact email listed wasn't mine. It never had been. It was a variation of my mother's and address she used for financial accounts. One I recognized from old household bills she handled alone. My stomach dropped. Why? I asked, not accusing, just trying to breathe through the sudden collapse of everything I thought I understood. Why would this be going to your email? My mother didn't blink. I don't know, Ellen. Banks make mistakes all the time. But Grandpa didn't look away from her. They don't make this kind, he said quietly. A flush crept up my mother's neck. My father shifted in his chair as if preparing to defend her, but no words came out. Marissa looked between them confused, maybe scared, or maybe simply worried that whatever this was, it might affect her. I opened the earliest email. Year 10. I remembered that year vividly. It was the year I asked my parents if we had anything set aside for my tuition, because my scholarship didn't cover everything. Mom said, "We're doing our best, but money is tight, sweetheart." Except it wasn't tight. Not for the person these emails were meant for. Not for me. I scrolled through the next year and the next. Every email matched a moment in my life when I had needed help and been told to manage on my own. Nights I skipped meals to save money. In the mornings, I walked to class in the rain because my car had broken down, and repairing it wasn't a priority. Summers, I took double shifts while Marissa went to dance camps in other cities. Every memory sharpened against the glow of the laptop. Grandpa finally spoke again, voice steady. "Ellen, these are yours. They always were, and someone made sure you never saw them." The table felt smaller, the air denser. I could feel my mother's stare drilling into me, half warning, half panicked. I closed the laptop gently, not to end the moment, but to contain the fury rising inside me. Because now I knew this wasn't a mistake. Someone had rewritten my life on purpose. I didn't open the laptop again right away. I just sat there with my hands resting on the closed lid, feeling the heat of the screen seep into my palms. 10 years of statements, 10 years of silence, 10 years of being told to be patient, be practical, don't expect too much. And all along, the help I begged for had already existed under my name. Hidden in plain sight. My chest tightened as memories returned in sharp, humiliating flashes. The night freshman year when my card declined at the bookstore, and I pretended. I forgot to transfer money. During the winter break, I worked overtime to afford rent while Marissa posted pictures from a week-long dance intensive funded by my parents. The afternoons, I cried quietly in the bathroom stall at work because I didn't know how I was going to pay for another set of textbooks. And every time I asked Mom if we had anything saved, she'd smile like she pitied me. "Life's expensive, Ellen. We just have to make do." No. She had made sure I made do, across the table. Mom finally straightened her back, trying to regain control. "We're not jumping to conclusions," she said, as if this entire situation were some emotional tantrum I was throwing. "Ellen doesn't know how these things work. Finances are complicated." The words stung more than they should have. I'd heard that tone my whole life. Condescending, dismissive. The way someone talks to a child who keeps wandering where they don't belong. But Grandpa wasn't having it. "Elaine," he said slowly, "explain why her address was replaced with yours." Her eyes flicked toward my father, quick and sharp, like she was signaling him to intervene. He shifted but didn't speak, so she tried again. "I managed the household paperwork. If something needed updating, I probably handled it by mistake." A mistake. For 10 years, year after year, statement after statement, every email routed to her inbox. Someone might believe that, but not me. Not anymore. I stood up, pushing my chair back a few inches. The legs scraped the hardwood floor, slicing through the silence. "If it was a mistake," I said quietly, "then why was I the only one in this family who didn't know I had a trust fund? Why did I struggle while Marissa Don't drag your sister into this, Mom snapped, her voice breaking for the first time. Marissa shrank into herself, eyes wide. I kept my voice calm. I'm not dragging her into anything. I'm just asking why someone made sure I never knew what was mine. For the first time all evening, my mother had no quick answer. Her mouth opened, then closed. Her fingers curled around her napkin so tight the fabric wrinkled. Grandpa leaned forward. Ellen, you deserve the truth. And you deserve control of your own finances? Control. A word I'd never been offered before. I exhaled slow and steady. This ends tonight, I said, and my voice didn't shake. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't crying. But inside, something solidified. Something sharp. Something certain. I wasn't just the quiet one anymore. This time, I wasn't going to look away. Grandpa was the one who finally broke the silence. He pushed his chair back, stood slowly, his joints stiff from age, but his presence towering, and looked around the table, as if taking inventory of who he could still trust. Then he said, with the same calm that made everyone uneasy, "We're not finishing dinner until we understand what happened here." My mother stiffened. My father shifted. Marissa swallowed hard. Grandpa gestured toward the living room. All of us. Come on. We moved as a group, a tense migration from the table to his study. The lights were warmer in there, softer, but the air felt colder. Something about walking into a room full of framed certificates, leather-bound books, and the old family crest on the wall made it impossible to pretend things were complicated or unclear. This room didn't tolerate excuses. Grandpa set the laptop on his desk. Sit. No one disobeyed. I stood behind the chair he'd pulled out for me, hands gripping the back, grounding myself. Mom sat beside Dad, her posture rigid, ready to argue. Marissa hovered near the doorway as if hoping she could slip out unnoticed. Grandpa clicked into the email records. The blue-white glow cast long shadows on the walls. Here, he said, opening an email dated 10 years back, the year I turned 17. This is when the contact information was changed. The screen revealed the old email crossed out, replaced by another, my mother's. A deliberate edit, time-stamped, logged, documented. Mom single quotes as breath hitched. That could be anything, she said quickly. Banks update things automatically. They don't, Grandpa cut in. Not without the account holder or guardian requesting it. I looked at my father. Did you request it? He shook his head. He didn't even look at my mother. No. So who did? I asked quietly, already knowing. No one answered. Grandpa clicked again, opening the confirmation email that followed the update. A message thanking the user for verifying the new contact information. It wasn't vague. It wasn't unclear. It was tied to an IP address from our home in Seattle. My mother's voice cracked. I was just trying to keep things organized. I stared at her, the woman who taught me to say thank you for every small thing. Who told me that life was easier if I didn't expect much. Organized. I repeated, Mom, you left me working double shifts while money in my name sat untouched. She recoiled like I'd slapped her. You were too young to understand responsibility. I didn't want you relying on money you didn't earn. I let out a small, humorless laugh. But Marissa could? Marissa flinched. I didn't know it was yours, Ellen. I swear. Mom said, don't. Mom snapped at her. Don't say another word. But the damage was done. Grandpa leaned back in his chair. Elaine, you kept a financial asset from its owner. That's not organization. That's control. My mother's voice sharpened. I did what I had to do for the family. For stability. Ellen never needed much, and Marissa needed everything. Is that it? I asked. She pressed her lips together. Dad finally spoke, voice low. Elaine, we should have told her. We should have. My mother's head snapped toward him. Richard, not now. But Grandpa didn't let her dodge it. You lied, he said, to me, to Ellen, for a decade. My mother's jaw trembled. Art, please. You don't understand. I understand enough. He clicked another email. This one was a trust fund notification from 3 years ago, the year I was juggling rent, classes, and a campus job just to afford basic groceries. I remembered crying in the privacy of my tiny apartment, thinking I had failed at adulthood before I even began. The email subject mocked me now. Annual allocation update. Money that could have changed everything. Money I was never allowed to know existed. Mom, I said softly. Why? She closed her eyes. A tear fell, one singular. Fragile tear, but her voice was still defensive. Because you wouldn't have made good decisions. You were always sensitive, easily overwhelmed. I needed to protect you from wasting it. My breath caught. Protect me. Yes, she insisted. And if you'd known about the trust, you would have gone off on your own to fast. You would have left us. The truth settled heavy between us. She didn't hide the money because I was irresponsible. She hid it because she was afraid I'd grow up without her permission. That wasn't your decision to make. I whispered. My mother shook her head, refusing the truth even as it stood in front of her, undeniable. Everything I did was for this family. Grandpa's voice tightened. Then why did you only do it to Ellen? Why didn't you redirect Marissa's trust fund emails? The question punched a hole straight through every excuse she had built. She had no answer. The room was silent except for Grandpa's steady breathing. Then he turned to me. Ellen, you should have access to everything now. Full control. If you want, I can call the bank representative tonight. I nodded. Yes, I want that. Mom's head snapped up. You can't just. I can, Grandpa said. And I will. She looked at me, eyes wide, voice cracking. Ellen, please. We can handle this privately. No, I said. For once, this doesn't get handled in the dark. My mother stood abruptly, but her knees wobbled. She reached out to the desk for support. You don't understand what this means. If you take control, everything we built. I kept my voice quiet, steady. Mom, you didn't build it. You borrowed it from me. The words struck deeper than shouting ever could. She sank back into her chair. Grandpa placed a hand on my shoulder. You're doing the right thing. For the first time, I felt it too. Not triumph, not revenge, just clarity. A truth that finally belonged to me. I looked at the laptop, at the decade of stolen decisions, and I knew this was the moment my life split into before and after. Whatever came next, I wasn't going back. The bank representative called back within the hour, confirming the transfer of all access and notifications to me. Hearing my own name, my actual email listed as the rightful contact, felt strangely unreal. Like stepping into a life I should have lived years ago. Grandpa squeezed my hand, proud but quiet. Letting the moment be mine. My mother stayed seated, shoulders curled inward, not arguing anymore. My father finally met my eyes, guilt softening something that had been rigid for years. Marissa whispered a small apology as she passed me on her way out. Later, in the calm after everyone left, I sat alone in Grandpa's study, scrolling through the newly restored notifications. 10 years of what-ifs. 10 years of choices stolen. But now, finally, I had control of the fund, of my future, of the story they tried to write without me. I walked out of Grandpa's house with nothing but a coat and a decade's worth of clarity. For the first time, my future belonged to me, not the people who feared I'd claim it. If this story hits something in you, share your experience below and subscribe for the next chapter. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop letting others write your story and start reclaiming the life that was always yours.